Ladies and gents, welcome to UX, and this is why the US Navy still won't escort a single tanker. Bachal Navy decoded. Because they don't care? Yeah, why would you risk it? It's not like US economy is dependent on it, so there you go. That's basically answer in a nutshell. I mean, did he make videos like, similar video like this? I don't know. I'm pretty sure I watched it from Navy Decoded. I'm guessing the answer is going to be like, well, you can't really risk these big ships. Maybe Marines are coming there. Right now, ceasefire. I don't know what's happening with ceasefire. They were meeting in Pakistan now. Hormuz is still somewhat closed, so I don't know about ceasefire. I thought ceasefire's meaning was that Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz. So this is mostly just one-sided ceasefire. America stopped attacking, I guess. Iran wasn't doing much of attack anyway. It was attacking Middle Eastern countries. And UAE was still bombing Iran. So I don't know about ceasefire. I don't know what type of ceasefire this is. I guess we'll see in the future. It's just been a day or two. It's going to be interesting. Let's do this one.
Crude oil prices are setting historic records. Iran has declared the Strait of Hormuz closed to hostile shipping. And across social media, millions of people are asking the same question. Why does the United States Navy not simply escort the tankers through? The logic sounds bulletproof. Park a $2.5 billion Aegis destroyer.
Logic sounds bulletproof. This is like saying, why can't you do it? Just do it. Oh, that's bulletproof. No, you can't just escort it.
Destroyer next to each supertanker. The destroyer carries 96 missile cells, the most advanced radar on the planet, and sensors that can track a ballistic warhead in the exosphere. Problem solved. Tankers move, oil flows, crisis over. Here is the physics that nobody in that debate understands. The shipping lane through Hormuz is 2 nautical miles wide. The supertanker you are protecting weighs 300,000 tons, and the threats are coming from 3 directions that the destroyer was never built to handle simultaneously. But the threat that should terrify you is not in the sky. It is already attached to the hull. A diver wearing a closed-circuit rebreather, 0 bubbles, 0 acoustic cross-section, placed a magnetic charge against the steel plating below the waterline. The sonar never registered him. The radar was never designed to look. $500 of explosive is now bonded to 300,000 long tons of crude oil. If you think escorting is a simple geometry problem, this video will break that assumption apart. On Navy Decoded,
I didn't know that was in the arsenal, just a guy underwater. That's something.
we decode why the most powerful warship in the world becomes a liability inside a narrow strait. Subscribe, because the math is about to get uncomfortable. The United States Navy is not guessing about convoy escort at Hormuz. It has done this before. The operation had a name. The scars are still in the hull records. Operation Earnest Will. July 24th, 1987 to September 26th, 1988. The largest American naval convoy operation since...
Yeah, the one where an American ship got blown up by a mine. I'm guessing that's what he's going to talk about here.
World War II. Kuwaiti oil tankers were reflagged under the Stars and Stripes to justify U.S. Navy escort through the Persian Gulf during the Iran-Iraq War. American warships sailed alongside tankers. The mission was simple: get them through. On April 14, 1988, the frigate USS Samuel B. Roberts, FFG-58, was escorting exactly that kind of convoy. The ship's radar was active.
So they're called Samuel B. Jackson, who can just say, I'm tired of these mother mines in this mother... Okay, I can't even say it here.
Weapons were loaded. The crew was scanning for aircraft and fast boats. Then a mine detonated beneath the hull. An Iranian M08 contact mine, the predecessor of the SADF-02 that Iran manufactures today, ripped a 15-foot hole through the hull, cracked the keel, and flooded the engine room before the crew could...
Did you see how it flexed the whole thing? How many people just got, you know, like slammed up in the ceiling? How many people got hurt? That's insane.
React. 10 sailors were injured. The ship that was supposed to protect the convoy now had to be saved by the convoy. 13 months and $89.5 million in repairs followed. 4 days later, the Navy launched Operation Praying Mantis, the largest U.S. surface engagement since World War II. The response was not more escorts. The response was direct strikes against Iranian naval...
Yeah, it was a proportional response. I still remember that video from Fried Nutrition. That was insane.
...platforms and oil installations. The lesson from 1988 was clear. You do not solve the escort problem by adding more escorts. You solve it by removing the threat. 38 years later, the physics of this strait have not changed. Here is why. We need to understand what we are protecting. A very large crude carrier, VLCC, is the backbone of global energy transit. It is 1,100 feet long, wider than a football field. Loaded with 2 million barrels of crude oil, it displaces up to 300,000 long tons. Think about what that mass means for maneuverability. A loaded VLCC's stopping distance is measured in nautical miles. Its turning radius spans thousands of feet. At full sea speed of roughly...
Are you kidding me? I mean, physics-wise, this makes sense, but my mind is just like measured in nautical miles. Hit the brakes. I mean, not the brakes. Stop the ship. It will take miles to stop. That's insane. Obviously, at that size, that makes sense. This is literally floating town or something, or floating a small block. Yeah, it will take miles to slow down on a water, but yeah.
15 knots, the ship needs several minutes just to initiate a course change. And at 15 knots, a VLCC moves at less than half the speed of the Arleigh.
So 300,000 tons. That's 300 million kilos. That's insane.
Burke destroyer sailing beside it. Now look at the hull. A VLCC is a commercial vessel. Its steel plating, in some sections as thin as half an inch, is engineered for structural integrity, not for combat survivability. No armor, no blast-resistant compartmentalization, no damage control teams trained for incoming fire. One anti-ship missile penetrating that hull detonates inside a steel container filled with 2 million barrels of flammable hydrocarbons. Imagine you are escorting an 18-wheel fuel tanker truck through a narrow alley with snipers on the rooftops. You are driving an armored SUV alongside it. You can shoot the snipers.
The RPG would have been better comparison than the snipers, but okay.
But you cannot physically block a bullet headed for the fuel tanker. You cannot make the tanker drive faster. You cannot make it smaller.
You can't even drift it.
You cannot make it turn. Your armor protects you. It does not protect the thing you are escorting. Before Operation Epic Fury, dozens of these supertankers transited Hormuz every day, carrying roughly 20 million barrels of crude, over $1 billion in cargo value daily. That traffic has collapsed.
Okay, this is time for this massive, like this kind of tanker making companies to somehow make it tougher with armor. It might make it costly, but this is going to be a long haul thing. Once you make these tankers, you're going to use them for an insanely long time, decades. So future conflicts doesn't really bother you if you make it like how Navy ships are, with proper armor and everything. There is a business element to it. Like, look at how much money people are wasting not getting, using these tankers. Even the companies, like tanker companies, are losing money. The insurance is high. Imagine the insurance would come down because of this armor. So why not make these tankers, thicker with proper armored? I don't know. Maybe it's too out there, this big of a ship, making it really tough and armor proof would make it way too costly, maybe. But on the long term, the level of business you do, isn't that worth it? I don't know.
The question is whether Escort can restore it. To answer that, we need to look at the geometry of the Strait itself. Here is where the Arleigh Burke destroyer, the crown jewel of the surface fleet, begins to fail. Not because of any flaw in its engineering, because the geography strips away every advantage the ship was designed to exploit.
I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised by the pricing of this ship, $3 billion. Because $13 billion for an aircraft carrier sounds insane to me. But if a destroyer costs $3 billion, yeah, $13 billion kind of makes sense.
The Aegis destroyer carries the most capable air defense radar afloat. Older ships use the AN Spy-1 with a detection range exceeding 200 nautical miles against air targets. The newest Flight 3 hulls carry the AN Spy-6, an active electronically scanned array that pushes detection past 300 nautical miles and tracks over 600 targets simultaneously. Either version provides 360-degree coverage and feeds targeting data to SM-2 and SM-6 interceptors that can engage threats at enormous range. But here is what most people do not understand about radar. Radar is light. Not visible light, microwave energy, but it obeys the same rule. It travels in a straight line. It does not
Isn't it radio waves? I mean, microwaves close to radio waves are kind of being used as well, but it's mostly radio waves, isn't it? I mean, yeah, obviously it overlaps, but yeah, I think it's mostly radio waves because it's very low energy. Microwaves is slightly higher energy, right? It requires more, and like it can like interact with things as well, but radio energy would just pass through. I think it's mostly radio, slightly crossing towards micro.
not bend around mountains. It does not curve over ridge lines. If a solid object stands between the antenna and the target, the beam stops, dead. Behind that object is a radar shadow, a volume of space where nothing exists as far as the sensor is concerned. On open water, there are no obstructions between the antenna and the horizon, so the radar sees everything. Place that same antenna inside a strait lined with mountains, and every peak, every cliff face, every island carves a shadow into the radar's coverage.
It's not a beam, it's like a wave that reflects back, but yeah.
The sensor is not broken. The geometry broke its physics. But open ocean gives you something that Hormuz does not: distance, and distance is time. The Strait of Hormuz at its narrowest measures 21 nautical miles, but ships do not have 21 nautical miles to work with. The traffic separation scheme confines commercial traffic to a corridor just 6 nautical miles wide, 2 nautical mile inbound lane, 2 nautical mile buffer, 2 nautical mile outbound lane.
Okay, I'm gonna say when a tanker requires miles to stop, that 2 nautical mile diameter where you can pass through is really small. Like when you hear about, oh, miles, that's a lot, but no, it's really not for these ships.
The tankers travel single file inside a ribbon of water narrower than the runways at some international airports. Now look at both sides of that ribbon. The Iranian coastline along the strait is mountainous. Sheer rock faces drop into the water. And Iran has positioned mobile transporter erector launchers inside tunnel complexes carved through the mountains, particularly on Keshem Island, which sits in the middle of the strait, barely 5 nautical miles from the shipping lane. The Khalij Fars anti-ship ballistic missile, a Fateh 110 derivative carrying a warhead exceeding 1,400 pounds, launches from those tunnels at over Mach 3. The geometry works against the defender. A ballistic missile does not fly in a straight line from launcher to target. It arcs upward and drops at a steep terminal angle. From a concealed launch inside a mountain tunnel to impact on a tanker hull 5 nautical miles away, the total flight time is under a minute. But the time that matters is not flight time, it is detection time. Terrain masking is the real weapon. The mountains block the destroyer's radar line of sight to the launcher. The AN Spy-1 does not see the missile until it clears the ridgeline. By the time it appears on the scope, the radar must classify the target.
What about E-2D Hawkeye and like things in the sky? Wouldn't they like F-35 circling E-2D Hawkeyes? Some of the satellite imagery that tracks things in real time. Wouldn't that help as well? I don't think American Navy only relies on destroyer, like radios, right? Radio waves. I'm pretty sure those things are also in effect.
Distinguishing it from radar clutter bouncing off canyon walls, islands, and dozens of commercial vessels crowding the strait. In open ocean, clutter is minimal. Inside Hormuz, clutter is everywhere. Even if the Aegis system achieves a lock instantaneously and fires an SM-6, the interceptor needs 10 to 15 seconds of flight time to reach the engagement
It's
point.
impossible.
The margin of error is measured in single-digit seconds. One hesitation, one clutter return that delays classification, and the missile reaches the tanker before the interceptor reaches the missile.
It's basically impossible in that small range, not to mention they could hide in one of the ships or something that USA thinks is commercial, or small patches of island. Immediately, like they can launch, modular style missile, anti-ship missile. Before Aegis can detect and launch it, it will just hit it. Like that close by, it will literally take a second or two for a missile to hit something. You don't have enough time to like detect it and Aegis to work. That's just impossible. It's way too close, right? It's like basically getting trapped into like very small area and people just punching you. Like it doesn't matter what kind of black belt you have, you literally have no room to move around. How are you going to defend?
Noor, Iran's license-built copy of the Chinese C-802, presents the same problem from a different angle. a subsonic cruise missile flying at Mach 0.9, hugging the wave tops in a sea-skimming profile. In open ocean, a destroyer's radar horizon detects a sea skimmer at 15 to 20 nautical miles. Inside the Strait, with terrain reflections masking the approach, detection range can collapse to 5 to 7 nautical miles. At Mach 0.9, 5 nautical miles is roughly 20 seconds. In open ocean, an Aegis destroyer owns the geometry. Inside Hormuz, the geometry owns the destroyer. But here is what no one in the public debate is talking about. While every sensor on the destroyer is pointed at the sky, the most dangerous threat is already in the water. On June 13, 2019, in the Gulf of Oman, just outside the Strait of Hormuz, 2 tankers, the Marshall Islands-flagged Front Altair and the Panama-flagged Kokuka Courageous, were attacked. Both sustained hull breaches. Both caught fire. Both crews abandoned ship. The United States military released infrared video showing an IRGC Gashti-class patrol boat approaching the hull of the Kokuka Courageous after the initial explosion, and personnel physically removing an unexploded device from the hull. The U.S. assessment: Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had attached limpet mines, magnetic explosive charges, to the ship's hulls below the waterline. A limpet mine is not a sophisticated weapon. It is a shaped explosive charge with powerful magnets on one face. A diver, or a crewman on a small boat, places it against the steel hull below the waterline. The magnets hold. A timer ticks. The diver disappears. Here's the physics that makes a limpet mine so effective underwater, and so irrelevant to the $2.5 billion worth of sensors sitting on the destroyer's mast. Water is approximately 800 times denser than air, and nearly incompressible. When an explosive charge detonates in the atmosphere, the blast wave radiates outward in all directions, losing energy rapidly as it expands through a compressible medium. But when a limpet mine detonates against a hull below the waterline, the water cannot compress. It cannot absorb the energy by expanding. It transmits the shockwave directly into the steel plating with almost zero energy loss, focusing the full...
Huh? What are you talking about? It's a 800 times denser, but still fluid. I mean, you can say it essentially in that short time when the explosion happened, it is like it's incompressible, but it's not. But yeah, I guess for all intents and purposes, it's like incompressible. It would damage it, right? I guess that's what he's talking about. I don't know.
Full explosive force into the smallest possible area. The damage does not stop with the initial blast. The detonation creates a high-pressure gas bubble. Surrounded by heavy, incompressible water, the bubble oscillates, expanding, collapsing, expanding again, each cycle hammering the hull with additional pressure pulses. If the bubble collapses asymmetrically near the hull, it forms a focused water jet, a spear of liquid moving fast enough to punch through internal bulkheads. A few dozen pounds of explosive beneath the waterline inflict damage that hundreds of pounds in open air could not replicate. A VLCC hull, half an inch of commercial steel, has no chance against this physics. Now, the cost asymmetry, but not the one you expect. The real asymmetry is not about price, it is about capability. A limpet mine costs a few $100s. The defense against it, from a moving warship at sea, does not exist. Not at any price. The Arleigh Burke carries no system designed to detect, track, or neutralize a combat swimmer approaching a hull in open water. The asymmetry is not expensive versus cheap, it is something versus...
I don't know how to prevent that. Throw some sharks in it. But bring those like amphibious vehicles, right? Like those Boxer, USS Boxer or something, and fill those hulls with like 100 sharks and throw it in. There you go, throw it in Strait of Hormuz. I bet the swimmer carrying a mine disappears instantly. That will be no longer a problem.
Versus nothing. The Arleigh Burke carries 2 sonar systems. The ANSQS-53C, a hull-mounted active sonar in the bow dome, hunts submarines by sending pulses into the water and reading the returns. The ANSQR-19 a passive
circuit rebreather diver. There you go. That's a human. It's 80 kilo mass, by the way. 0 cavitation, too quiet, and 0 bubbles. There you go.
Towed array.
What if he farts, though? Wouldn't that cause bubbles?
Streamed nearly a mile behind the ship, listens for the propulsion noise and cavitation of targets displacing hundreds or thousands of tons. Both systems are optimized for anti-submarine warfare. Neither is designed to detect an 80-kilogram human diver wearing a closed-circuit rebreather emitting zero bubbles, drifting with the natural current of the Strait. The Navy possesses diver detection sonar, systems like the Sonardyne Sentinel, designed for exactly this threat. But they are fixed installations, bolted to piers, mounted on harbor floors, designed to protect ships at anchor in a known static water volume. A destroyer transiting the Strait at speed does not carry dedicated swimmer detection sonar. It has no tool optimized for finding a man in a wetsuit floating beneath a tanker hull. The most expensive combat system in the surface fleet is blind to the cheapest weapon on the battlefield.
That's like saying the most sophisticated machine gun cannot shoot a bird from the sky. Yeah, it's too small, and how is it going to aim? Like, yeah, I mean, it's not designed for that, so it makes sense.
Each of those three vectors, on its own, is survivable. Together, they are not. The tanker cannot maneuver, it cannot accelerate, it cannot absorb a hit. Its hull is thinner than the armor on a civilian pickup truck. Every tanker transiting Hormuz is a static, explosive-laden target moving at walking pace through a corridor 2 nautical miles wide. The destroyer cannot protect it from above. Terrain masking collapses detection time. Radar clutter in the confined strait delays target classification. An anti-ship ballistic missile arriving at Mach 3 from 5 nautical miles leaves less than a minute between detection and impact, and the interceptor needs most of that time just to fly to the engagement point. The geometry designed to give Aegis an advantage in open water becomes a liability in a canyon. And the destroyer cannot protect the tanker from below. The billion-dollar sonar listens for submarines. It does not hear divers. The radar stares at the sky. It does not see magnets. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer was born for the open ocean, where time is measured in minutes, threats arrive from predictable azimuths, and the ship controls the geometry. Place that same ship inside a 2 nautical mile corridor, flanked by mountains hiding missile launchers, transiting above shallow water where its sonar is degraded, and it loses the three things it needs most: time, space, and sensor clarity. That is why Operation Epic Fury did not begin with a convoy. It began with strikes. The United States Navy looked at the Escort equation and reached the same conclusion it reached in 1988 after USS Samuel B. Roberts. You do not solve.
I mean, in the end of the day, the only answer is, yeah, it's too small, so you can't really defend. Apart from that, like sensors, again, things in the sky, E2D or something, Air Force is E3, or satellites, I think you would be able to see things. If satellites can track a man trying to survive with a broken ankle running on top of the mountain, which they did, I think satellites can find any movement in this coast. So I don't think it's sensor issue. It's the size issue. Suddenly somebody launches something, you don't have time to answer. To answer that, yeah, like I said, throw some sharks in the water, no divers. Bombard the coastline or something, or you know what, throw some radioactive waste in the coastline temporarily. So nobody basically becomes no man's zone in a way. Nobody goes there. Nothing is there. And there you created some like safe area. When the conflict clears, I don't know, like sends experts and clear the nuclear waste. I mean, you have piling nuclear waste. This is the time to use it. Not to hurt people, but make sure nobody goes there because it's radioactive now. Throw out leaflet like you did in Japan in World War II. Oh, by the way, we're going to throw nuclear waste here. Do not wander this mountainous area. It's at your peril now.
Solve a strait by defending inside it. You solve it by destroying the threats that make it dangerous. And here is the insight that rewrites Vector 1 entirely. The supertanker, that lumbering, unarmored, indefensible target, is not the victim of this conflict. It is the reason for it. 20 million barrels of crude per day, over $1 billion in cargo. The physics of the Strait made Escort impossible. The economics of the Strait made war inevitable. The United States did not attack Iran over politics. It attacked because geometry left no alternative that keeps the oil flowing. If this breakdown rewired how you think about naval power, subscribe to Navy Decoded, because here is the answer you now carry with you. The next time someone in a debate, in a comment section, in a news broadcast asks, why doesn't the Navy just escort the tankers? Remember,
just do it, man. You know, winners win, that type of shit, right? Or US Navy, just do it. But we can, no. You can't do it. Just do it, man. That's simple. W. Chase the W. Winners win. You know that kind of thing. That's streamer talk. Yeah. Everything at this scale is insanely complicated. Anybody who just smug face Instagram or USS socks, yeah, you will never be able to, shut up these people. They will always find a way to say things. See, in this conflict, USA has been attacking Iranian things. Iran literally cannot attack USA because they don't have the capabilities. So they literally attack civilian ships as a war tactic. And people actually flex. See, Iran's power. What power? You can't even touch USA. You can't even, your missiles cannot even reach anything USA. Not mainland, not even it's like islands somewhere else. And your only answer is to attack commercial ship carrying gas and whatever. The countries that those things going to are not even related to America. And that is your flex, that I'm going to destroy these ships. Some of those ships even go to China, your ally. But your flex is, I'm going to annoy everyone, so everyone's going to pressure America so they don't attack me. That's not a flex, man. Right? I don't know how you think that's a flex.
The USS Samuel B. Roberts. Remember the 15-foot hole in the hull. Remember that the ship sent to protect the convoy had to be saved by the convoy. The physics have not changed. The geometry has not changed. The strait is still 21 nautical miles wide, and the shipping lane is still 2. The mountains still hide the launchers. The water is still 800 times denser than air. And a diver with a $500 magnetic charge is still invisible to every sensor on a $2.5 billion destroyer. What has changed is the question. It is no longer whether to escort. It is whether you spend $500 to attach a magnetic charge to a tanker hull, or whether you spend hundreds of billions of dollars to dismantle the entire military infrastructure of the nation holding the strait. The United States made its choice. Whether that math was correct is a calculation Navy Decoded leaves for you.
Yeah, see, the thing is, anything United States does is correct because in the end of the day, they will win one way or another. See, here's the thing. You need to go to a point, whether you take the closest route or the wrong route. If you manage dig your way to the end line, you are basically victorious. Doesn't matter which path you took. USA will find way to win. So what do they do? Was that right or not? Armchair people can argue all day long, but the reality is they will get there one way or another. It might happen in a year, it might happen in 10 years, but they'll do it. Because of course they will. They have too much money. Even if they waste money, they'll find a way to do it. It's just money. They'll just make it. $30 trillion economy. That's insane. But yeah, there you go. Apparently a man in a diver suit is a threat. I didn't know that, but there you go. Right, well, if you like my next one, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.